What's up, Facebook land? Brandon Orr here, Reclaiming Lives Recovery Cafe. On a beautiful Thursday, actually. It turned out pretty nice. I'm pretty impressed with the day.
Yes.
The weather's been pretty poop lately, so to speak. It's
Yes.
weird because it's like mid-June.
I know.
Super strange. But today I have a really good friend with me. This lady's a mover and a shaker. She definitely makes her way through a recovery, not scared. This woman started up organizations and helped programs be developed. She is an Alaska native. No, just
but native to Alaska.
But native to Alaska, and she's also a really good friend of mine, and I consider her a mentor as well as a friend. Kara Nelson, how are you doing? Are you nervous?
No.
Nope.
Hello, beautiful people.
Never nervous, huh?
Hello. Yes,
Were you
of course.
nervous
I'm always nervous.
Were you nervous in DC?
I'm always nervous, and then it's the Holy Spirit shakedown every time.
So the reason I wanted you to come on today is just a few things. Like, there's something about you that has caught my eye from the beginning, and it's the way that it's the passion through you about your recovery that sticks out to me the most and what you've done with it. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born and raised in a very small town in Alaska, literally in the middle of nowhere. My dad was a logger. I had 3 other sisters, and I have lived in Alaska most of my life until now. And so we moved from there to Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska, and then to Ketchikan, and then back to Juneau. And it's just been a journey, yeah.
How much time do you have clean and sober today?
As of June 1st, I have 9 years.
What?
Yes.
That's such a big deal. When was the pivoting? What was the pivoting spot that made you want to change your life around? What was it that made Kara say, "Okay, Kara, I've had enough. Time to sink that ship and build a new one"?
Well, first of all, as a kid, I was just super joyful and full of life, and there was a point in my life that my perspective changed. And many of you probably know, once something traumatic happens, it actually invites other traumatic incidents. And by the time I was 13, I started using and drinking and using coke and anything else I could get my hands on. And it was just 20 years of a certain death that I lived. So 2 decades out there on the streets. I did well in school. I was able to maintain for a lot of years until I wasn't. You know, at 19, I shot dope for the first time, and it was on from there. You know, I just, it wasn't fun anymore to party. It was a job, and was just trying to stay well. I had 3 beautiful children during that time, and unfortunately, you know, living that lifestyle, I didn't even know how to be a mom or how to do basic life things, you know, and it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. I hit a bottom and I kept going. I hit a bottom and I kept going. I've always had a knowledge early on that I was born for great and glorious things. And in fact, I would have people come up to me out of the blue and prophesy over my life and say that I would be speaking in front of thousands of people and just bringing change and bringing some kind of shift, social shift into the world. And of course, at the time, I was super high and out running around. I just like, these people are crazy. But this would happen over many years. You know, just out of the blue. And when I was 25 years old, I got my 3rd DWI, and I had the option to either go to treatment or go to prison. I chose to go to treatment. I didn't know what that meant. It sounded like the easier, softer way. I had no idea what I was embarking on. I had never heard of recovery before. And at that time, I remember going into my very first AA meeting And by now I've been in and out of jail, and in Alaska we have a unified prison system. They're all prisons, mostly made for men, but I say that because that's something I've advocated for later. And I had never heard of recovery, and I remember walking to my very first AA meeting, 1736 in Ketchikan, Alaska, and it was like the first time that I had heard other people speaking about things that I never knew that I had permission to speak about. It was the first time I didn't feel alone. I knew at that point, I was raised in a very Christian religious family, and went to Christian schools as a child, so I knew I had gone too far. The shame was so deep, the shame was so crippling, and of course I just used more and more and more to cover that up, and then it just would continue this ugly cycle. So at 25 I went to treatment for the first time, heard about really understood what recovery was, and kind of started down this path of staying clean and sober. At that time I was able to maintain for about 2.5 years and got into a relationship that I shouldn't have been in. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise. We all been there though.
Thought I knew better and had one foot in, one foot out, and bam, I was off and running again. And I went into the deepest, darkest places I never thought possible to survive. And that went on for years and years and years and years. And so, during those times, I don't remember a lot. I've had a lot of healing through many parts and pieces of my story, and have really allowed the Lord to come into those places that some of them I didn't even know I needed healing in. And really with the expectation that as I heal, then I get to be a part of others' healing as well, and be the person that I was always created to be.
Meant to be, right?
Yeah. So when I was 32, how it took that long, I have no idea. I got charged with my first felony convictions, 12 to be exact. I pleaded down to 2 and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Alaska.
For 2 felonies?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Class B, Class C. Hindering prosecution, and a Miss 3 selling methamphetamine. And at that point, I was so far down. I almost welcomed it. I didn't care if I lived or died. I had overdosed more times than I even remember. I just had no desire to live. And I looked the part, I had track marks up and down my arms and my neck and my hands and my legs and my feet. And I remember just going in that time and just having zero hope whatsoever. And so that kind of began this journey of doing some time. I had been in and out many times, but that was the longest stretch I had done. I got sent to the women's prison in Alaska, the only women's prison in Alaska, which is about 1,500 miles away from where I lived.
Or anything.
Yeah, anything. And so at that point, I knew that I just had no passion. I had no reason to live. And I remember going into the chapel at that time, and it was this, there's about 600 women that are incarcerated there, or 400. And the chaplain, I heard someone speak my name, and I heard Kara Nelson, and I look over, and there was this incredibly beautiful man. When he spoke, I knew that there was no judgment. I could feel Jesus all over him, and when I looked at him, I realized he was actually a family friend that I had known early on in my life, and it was just the first time that there was just a glimpse of humanity. And that really was kind of the spark for me to understand that maybe I hadn't gone too far. Maybe there was some hope You know, again, because of the way I was raised, I felt a lot of shame that I could never measure up with the God that I thought I knew. And my story is based off a spiritual radical encounter with Jesus. So I just want to make that clear. Yeah. I was not a suddenly story. Like I hear of many people have miraculous suddenly stories, which is awesome. That was not my story. I like to drag things out. I like to think I know better. And so, you know, I didn't get clean at that time. I didn't do amazing, although I felt like I was doing pretty good because I wasn't shooting dope. And there was a lot of it around in the prison. And when I got out, my parents had my children, which I'm incredibly grateful for. They were able to live with my parents and not go into foster care. At this time, they were now preteens, and as someone who didn't even know how to be a mother or how to take care of myself, although I desperately wanted to be there and be that mom for my beautiful kids, I just didn't know how. And when I got out, this time I was now on felony probation. You know, I was reunified with my children shortly after that, and it felt impossible every day. I, you know, didn't qualify for a lot of government. I couldn't go back to school and get a Pell Grant. I couldn't get government assistance to try and get on my feet with my kids.
Been there.
Couldn't get housing. So all of these things play into what the Lord had planned for me all along. And really giving a voice to these issues and really stepping in and giving a face and a real-time solution, partnering with the Holy Spirit and really walking through some of these things that we walk through as people who are formerly incarcerated and even in recovery. And so, you know, that was a very difficult time because I was trying to look good for my PO. I wanted to do good, but I didn't know how, but I couldn't ask for help because then I'd be in trouble. I might go back to prison. You know, all of these things that we walk through that unless you've been there, you just can't understand what it means to be on probation. And I mention that because it's one of the biggest things that I really see as something that we need to shift, something that needs to change, something that we need to do a better job at in the United States. You know, we incarcerate 25% of the world's population, yet we only hold 5% of the world's population. That's a crime, as far as I'm concerned.
There's a statistic for you guys. Write that down.
You know, there's over 70 million people with a criminal background. And so, you know, it really, these things are the things that have really just in my spirit and in my walk and in my recovery have come to the surface. Yes, I wanted those things for myself and my family, but how do we change it on a systematic level to make sure that our communities are not being ripped apart the way that they are and have been for decades?
Right.
You know.
Holy crap! There was so much good stuff in there. Whew. I love that. I love when you talk, and that's why she's on today, everybody. I'm just letting you know. So there's something back about a few sentences back that you said when you went to AA in Ketchikan, was it? And then you shout out an address. So that's your shout out.
Yeah.
You said that was the first time that you found out what recovery was.
Yeah.
What is it to you today?
Yeah. I mean,
what does recovery mean to you today?
Just hope. Hope is so powerful. When there are other people sharing their stories of overcoming and you know, not all stories look the same, but we have this hope that we can and do recover. There is nobody that's gone too far. We do recover. We can recover. We do it together. There's a connection when you know someone's walked through what you've walked through. And it hasn't changed today. It's the same thing. You know, the thing that's changed for me is there was a point in my when I was about a year and a half clean and sober, where I had already had 3 violations for probation, and I couldn't stay clean, and was going in and out doing the installment plan. I had 4 years of felony probation.
Installment plan.
Yeah. Took me 7 years to do 4 years of probation, and
pardon me.
a year and a half I was clean and sober. I had already been meeting with some community members about starting a home for women coming out of prison. And I mean, first of all, I'm sure many of you watching have been in this situation. Like, I knew nothing. I'm a year and a half clean and sober. I'm super raw and uneducated, but God, right? I mean, he qualifies me. I understand that more now. At that time, I did not, but I somehow was able to fumble my way to, I knew I wanted to make change. I didn't know how to do that. Somehow I ended up with this group of people who wanted to start this home for women.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and this 2 women who were prison ministry volunteers who, when I was incarcerated, just wrecked my world. Just them there would sing hymns and stuff, and you could just feel the love all over them. Ramona Agnell and Ellen Campbell were actually the visionaries over this home. They continue to see women come in and
what was the home called?
Haven House. It's in Juneau, Alaska.
Still
Going. And so I was able to help bring that vision to fruition. Now, if you would have ever told me, yes, of course I wanted to do great things, but to actually be a part of that and do that, I just want everyone to know, like, your voice matters, your story matters. It's super powerful. When you speak out, it actually gives permission for others to speak out. And one of the things that would always hold me back was, like, I knew that I had harmed my community and harmed my family and harmed myself, and it would hold me back from stepping into these places. And no, let me tell you, a year and a half clean and sober, when I was charged with 4 new PTRPs, probation violations, which would make 7, meaning I would do the rest of my time, 3.5 years hanging over my head. I just remember, and it was for breaking my conditions, talking to other people that I didn't have permission to talk to, and all the things that I felt like, I'm an adult, don't tell me who to talk to. I'm not getting high, what more do you want? That kind of attitude, right? Here's the deal. When you're done with that, you're done with that. I felt like it was so wrong that I had these violations put on me, but God. This was the moment where I decided to stop being a victim. This is the moment where I decided, I have nothing. I am at the end of myself. Lord, who do you say I am? Lord, this is chaos. I cannot believe I have to tell my kids I'm going back to prison for 3.5 years. It feels very unfair. And I remember falling to my knees and just crying out to the Lord. And I'm telling you, I am not some perfect person. I didn't read my Bible every day. I'm not sitting in worship. I just had a faith and a trust. And let me tell you something. I literally kind of came to as I'm crying out, and Jesus was in my bedroom. And he said, Kara, it is finished. And in that moment, I knew exactly what he did on the cross. I knew exactly what it meant when he said, it is finished. With a needle in my arm, he loved me just the same. He couldn't love me any more, and he couldn't love me any less. And in that moment, I saw God's heart for people and for myself. And all that time, I was trying to measure up. I was trying to, do the right thing, and I couldn't stop, talking shit or smoking or whatever I was doing, and here it was, the totality of the finished work that Jesus did. I have a relationship with the Lord. This is not religion. This is the gospel. Sorry, I didn't mean to go there today, but here we are preaching.
Well, I know you walked in, you said, you're going to have to lead this. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I know. No, I actually, it's like no matter what anybody's walk recovery is, you know, it's important for, you know, everybody to have their words of whatever it means to them. So I don't hold anything back. If you have something to say, then say it, you know.
Absolutely.
As long as we don't do the Kenny Myers F-bomb 5 times. Yeah, you, Kenny.
Hey, it might happen.
You know what I mean? You know, if that's your walk to recovery, that's exactly
Finished at the cross.
You know what I mean? Like I said, yeah, like there's plenty of people out there, so we have nothing against you. And that was, for me, that's deep because I'm a person that walks in faith as well. So, whoo, so many good things. So, your peer support.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah. So during that encounter with the Lord, I actually had just systems downloaded to me and different systems that we were currently, this is in 2012, I want to say. Yeah, 2012. Systems of care, right? At the time, nobody was speaking out about recovery like we see now. At the time, there were pioneers in the recovery movement who were just starting to develop and come together to really mobilize recovery support services, including peer support. Prior to that, of course, there was a robust peer support system within mental health, but recovery coaching was not so much known, you know, in the general behavioral health system. Anyway, I really saw this opportunity, and because the Lord showed me, and because I just started getting this incredible passion to read and educate myself on all systems of care regarding treatment and recovery and mass incarceration and de-incarceration and reentry and all of these things. Mind you, I didn't know anything before. I mean, this is like just me stepping out in ways, again, think I'm totally unqualified, but my story qualifies me, right? My father qualifies me. And I felt like, how is my voice important in this? And I just started showing up at different community meetings, different places I wasn't invited to, whether that was on the ground level or, you know, I lived in the Capitol, so I was at our state capitol. Whenever there'd be something that would come up on treatment or, you know, recovery or incarceration. And I started to realize in the state capitol that literally they were making decisions without us that made no sense whatsoever. There was nobody there talking with actual lived experience, both inside the system and overcoming and the in-between and the ongoing. And so That's really where I was terrified every time. But I would just show up and I would just share, you know, different things, you know, whether that was about my own experience or friends or, you know, just I had 20 years out there, so I had a lot of experience.
You got
to
that
share.
lived experience, you know that,
right.
Yeah.
So
that's
started,
qualification.
Yeah, and I was really fortunate to have this model. I was able to open this home for women. It's a very long story, and I won't tell it here. But you know, and so what we did was the community wanted solutions for the addiction and everything that was happening in our communities. Yet when we bring the solution, like a home in a residential neighborhood, nobody was okay with that.
Yeah.
And so we had to fight for that too, and we had to change city ordinances and had to move forward boldly, but with integrity, right? So we're asking to be given grace. We're asking our communities to treat this as a public health issue that it is and not a criminal issue. Yet we also have to be the ones that carry that integrity as we do those things, you know?
Right. What does peer support mean to you?
Peer support is connection. I have an instant trust with you because what we've gone through is an absolute miracle. Mm-hmm. It's incomprehensible. to be on this side. Peer
Right.
support to me is like when you're walking alongside of me, and you're not telling me what to do, you're not telling me how to live my life, but you're walking alongside because you've gone before, or you're going alongside. You know, I've gotten peer support to me as the person who's one day clean or even still out there, and they're sharing their experience with me, and it allows me to continue forward in that moment, you know, and build relationships that I didn't even know how to before.
Connection, man, that's what it is.
Connection,
you know?
is everything.
I think that peer support is, you know, we are able to walk alongside somebody who has no clue how to walk yet, and we were able to walk through some pretty cool things that were difficult, and we get to help them walk alongside them so maybe they can pay it forward down the road, you know?
Absolutely.
I just love peer support and everything it stands for. Kara, what is your most proudest moment?
Oh my goodness. There's so many.
I'm waiting.
Anytime that I see another level of restoration with my children.
Ooh, that was good.
Yeah.
Give me one right there. Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
What are you grateful for?
I am incredibly grateful to know who I am today.
Come on, man.
That's where it's at.
Come
When you know
on,
who
man.
you are, when you know whose you are so unstoppable.
You know, I'm so blessed we got to have you here today. I love hearing you talk. I love the passion that runs through you. I love when you speak. You're one of my favorite people in the world. If somebody's out there right now super struggling, they can't make heads or tails of a situation they're in, and they just are almost at the bitter end and they just are looking for a glimmer of hope, what would you say to them right now?
Don't give up. You've never gone too far. You don't have to do anything alone. We are here. There's people in your community. There's peer support in your community. There's people in recovery. There's mutual aid groups, AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery. Reach out. Please reach out. This is not something we do as a job or anything else. We can only keep what we have by giving it away.
Amen.
And it is a joy and an honor to speak life over you. And there's over 23 million Americans in recovery. And we've got to elevate that. You have to know that you're not alone. You have to know that there are people here that genuinely care about you. I have never met you, and you mean everything to me. Your life matters. Thank you, Father. Oh, sorry, I almost went into a prayer there.
Well, you guys,
So
now you
true.
see why we had her on.
So
and
honored, yeah.
if you guys remember, comment, like, share. If you guys need help with any resources, if you guys need help with a recovery plan,
Yeah.
if you guys just need to be loved on a little bit,
Yes.
need a little bit of hope, you know where to find us. We're right here at Reclaiming Lives Recovery
Yes.
Cafe, downtown Medford.
Recovery Cafe.
Yep, come see Stephanie and I, man. Actually, we're waiting for you. So we love you to death. We're glad you could be here today, Kara.
Yeah.
And we're glad
Thank
you
you.
guys were able to tune in with
One
us
another.
today. I'm just so blessed to be able to do this job that we get to do today. And we love you guys. God bless.
Yes.